Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Brave Cat here once again with another Frontier Signals update. So first off here, I'm just going to show the progress I've been making on the Pole Shift Star Map tool slash program. So this still needs a lot of work. Give me 1 second. So, alright, like I said, this is not really polished or anything. It is looking pretty good though. Pretty happy with the general layout of it, but it's not exactly what I'm going for. But you can see kind of what I'm going for here. So on the left here, you've got the kind of globe version of the map, which looks pretty terrible right now. I don't really know what's happening with the countries and continents rendering. But anyways, though, so you can change this slider here. So this is dragging the North Pole south, and then you can change it on the other axis as well. So, let's just say 90-degree tilt, and I think, well, I can't really tell where the pole is on this map because it's really jank. But, let's just say there's a 90-degree tilt and all that. The stars at night are going to look much different. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is put together some sort of program and tool where you can essentially customize exactly what kind of pole shift scenario you want. And then you'll be able to basically export the image, download it as an actual usable star map, and hopefully be able to print it out. So yeah, there's still, I've been having some hangups in the coding, and this is like 3,000 lines of code. And I'm trying to simplify it and, polish it up here, make it function correctly, because, this isn't really too usable right now. I don't even know how accurate the constellations are. It's supposed to be based off of true coordinate positions here, but I think I need to just kind of simplify it and see what I can do. So anyways, hopefully that'll be done relatively soon, because yeah, it's a pretty big project there, and it's a little bit more complicated than I figured it would. But anyways, going into space weather for today, we have had a long duration X-flare, so it's been quite a minute here since we've had some decent activity going on, and now we have this. So, and it looks like that coronal mass ejection from that is going to be striking us tomorrow. So, along with the coronal hole stream potentially as well. So, take things over here, where we can see on here what exactly happened in this region here next to that coronal hole. So, the camera kind of does some recalibration of some sorts right as it happens. I'm a little bit unlucky there, but you can pretty much see it's a very impulsive, pretty large flare coming out of there. And even afterwards, it just kind of looks like that region is still a little bit unstable here. So we can take a look at the sunspot group here in question. And, it's pretty much the, like all these other sunspot groups aren't really much, to look at here in terms of the magnetic complexity. Maybe this one up in the top right also has some chance to flare, but the rest of these look pretty stable. Pretty chillin'. This is the one that flared off. And just taking a quick peek on here, there's one little region on the side that just departed. We can see that up here. But, everything facing us right now is probably all we're going to see for a decent, I don't know, a few weeks or so maybe. We'll see how it goes. But, taking a look at the endless spiral to see what they have predicted for this flare, it's a really fast flare. I mean, it just happened last night. It's kind of funny. I was actually, last night I was working on that star map, and I made an X post about the solar flare, right after it struck. This was 11:40 p.m. Mountain Time, because I just, felt like a disturbance in the force. I'm not even kidding you. And so I went and checked, I checked the earthquakes first. This happened after. But before I get too sidetracked here, so I made a post, oh my gosh, where did it go? So we have the other chronograph image here. We can see it's pretty big coronal mass ejection. And again, it is very fast moving, so it is already going to be slapping us going into tomorrow. It's really just grazing us though, luckily. But just from this, it kind of looks like the bulk of it really wanted to hit Earth. So we'll just have to see how that really plays out, because again, this is just a forecast model. Usually pretty accurate, besides the fact that the actual solar storm is probably going to be a little bit underestimated here. So they're going for a G1 to G2 storm late tomorrow going into April 1st. And, and then we're also going to have the coronal hole stream. Right now it's directly facing us. So, I mean, that'll take a couple days. The coronal hole stream will probably hit us after the flare, because this thing is just, I mean, it is fast. And then so I also posted a picture of the X-ray flux. So this is initially right when the flare occurred. This is the X-ray flash that struck Earth just minutes after that happened. And so we can see it hit right in the middle of the Indo-Australian plate. We've got the Philippines right here, and we have the Vanuatu region over here as well, which is where this new 7.3 struck. So this is still a little over 100 kilometers deep, so it wasn't really super shallow. There is some felt reports. I don't think there's really a tsunami warning, but I could check that out really quick. So it looks like over here on the USGS, they actually have a whole summary for the earthquake, which, I mean, unless I just wasn't paying attention, this is the first I've ever seen something like this on here. So they are indicating that, this region, frequently experiences large earthquakes. And that's true. That's totally true. This place does, this area right here is basically like a jackhammer going deep into the earth, where we see most of the deep earthquake activity, and then as well as quite a bit of the larger activity as well. So yeah, I mean, that does check out for sure. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be any tsunami warning here, which makes sense. Again, it's pretty deep. If it was super shallow, and it's kind of not directly on land, but anyways. So, and that is kind of following the 7.5 that happened over here, but I'm not really sure what kind of correlation could be made there. Definitely been having a lot of second thoughts on various theories going on based on what we've been seeing for the last 6 months or so of like pretty regularly looking at this. There is a lot of times where we do see shallower, larger activity result from deep earthquakes. However, there are also a lot of examples where that doesn't happen. And the 7.5, it wasn't super deep. We can take a look at it again. It was, whoa. That is not the one I clicked on. We're not even close to Texas. Okay. 230 kilometers deep, so that's not really that deep, considering these things can top out at 750. And with that, speaking of earthquakes topping out at 750 kilometers, if we go down here to global incident map, there is another earthquake, or perhaps two, showing up on here that the USGS did not report. So these happened, I believe, roughly the same time as the 7 up here. So we got 2:47 a.m. on the 30th, and that's, I think, UTC, I'd imagine. And yeah, the 7.3, 2:44. So these actually happened basically at the same exact time. And so I'm not exactly sure if this is a revision of the report, but if we go down here, we're sorting things by magnitude. So we have a few different reports for the same 7.3/7.4. And that was, somewhat deep. And then we have the 6 and the 5.8. So one of them is registering the depth as 750 kilometers, and then this 5.8 is registering it at about 400. And they are, you know, pretty far away from each other. So that leads me to believe that these are two separate events that happened at the same exact time. So once again, we have very broad movement happening seismically, all at the same exact time. And I'm even going to see if it has it on the New Zealand feed. So yeah, that's kind of what I figured here. Even with the New Zealand feed turned on, these earthquakes are still not being reported here. So that is essentially why I have started using this global incident map, because, you know, you can find earthquakes on here, not little earthquakes, you know, significant earthquakes that are not being reported anywhere else. So this one is being reported by GeoNet, and I don't think I can get that feed on this program unless I, you know, maybe there's a way to import that data feed, but I don't think it's on here. You have Geophon Germany, EMSC, and most of it's USGS. So yeah, now this is a really good way to kind of fill in the gaps here. You know, anytime something significant seems to be going on, I always check here. And, you know, 50% of the time it seems like something pops up that doesn't happen elsewhere. So other than that, though, there's been just a little bit of other movement here. So we have another earthquake striking off of Australia in the middle of the ocean. And again, as these ocean earthquakes, especially, we have another one up here in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, as these become more and more common and potentially larger, you know, that kind of really starts to, I don't know, get a little bit concerning that, you know, we're having strange movement and deep earthquakes in places that are not exactly normal. So just another thing to keep an eye on going forward. And we'll just wrap things up here earthquake-wise with the US. So let's just kind of take that down a little bit. So we have had, you know, fairly significant activity here. You know, again, lots of tremor stacks and some scattered threes going around here. So especially in California, we got one at the north end and one at the south end, and just a whole bunch of stuff in between. And looking at the tremor map, we have continued activity on here, which, you know, finally we're starting to get back into some sort of consistency here with the movement. And we have another 245 for today. So that is going on in these two locations here. This one is the most of it. So that's pretty much right off where this 3 up here struck, pretty much right off the coast from there. And yeah, there seems to be a lot of tremor activity going all the way up and down this entire section, and going inland to a lot of those volcanic buttes and other areas of, you know, natural weak points in the crust, as well as, you know, some of these more artificial weak points in the crust over here in Texas, where a lot of these, you know, drill points are. And, you know, I'm going to take a look at what's going on down here, because I don't remember seeing that. All right, so there's a swarm of earthquakes, or tremors rather, going on here near San Antonio, it looks like. So we're just going to punch in these coordinates and see what is over there. So just boop that in there. I don't know why I said that. All right, so what do we got going on here? All right, well, to me, just zoomed out, it looks like there are hundreds, if not many, many thousands of oil and gas drill points here. So let's just zoom in and see if that's the case. There actually looks like there could be some quarrying going on here too. But as we can see, there's some pipelines. And let's kind of zoom in on some of these other pads. So yeah, there's a lot of pipeline stations here. And then there it is. We got the oil jack. You can see the shadow. So yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me in the least. And if you just zoom out, you can just see how many of these pads there are. And, you know, you zoom in and these are not houses. So these are all different pads for, you know, drilling. And it's just the fact of the matter that these cause weak points in the crust where seismic activity wants to release at. And wow, just look at how many there are. Like, I don't know how many square miles this is, but you can just, wow. I mean, it just, oh my God. Like, it's crazy. It is crazy. I think the US has more oil than the entire Middle East combined. Like, I don't know, man. Like, just look at this. You know, we should not be struggling with anything oil related. So, you know, if anything does happen, which seems like it is, you know, it's fabricated. It's any sort of crisis at this point is definitely pretty much manufactured. So, okay, let's let's move on from that. Wow, that is crazy. I've never zoomed into that area in particular, but and those oil fields go like multiple states. I mean, there's just an unfathomable amount. So, all right, the only thing I wanted to bring up here was, again, this stupid, silly chart where yesterday it said 95 M3 earthquakes, and now they dropped it back down to 83. So this is just some whimsical, who knows what the hell's going on here kind of thing. It's just kind of funny, but also a little bit frustrating because it's like, all right, what the heck? There was a magnitude 3 earthquake that happened around there, but nothing really too significant from there. So, all right, let's just take a look at the volcanoes really quick, and I'll wrap this thing up here. I've not actually taken a look at these today. Haven't really seen any posts being made about anything too crazy going on, but let's see, there is a post embedded from X, from Kamchatka. Okay. I don't think I've actually seen any footage from this yet, but wow. So that is a 23,000 foot high blast, and this thing has had a 38,000 foot high blast within the same week. So that's pretty significant. All right, we got Philippines, Indonesia, Guatemala, and Sabancaya. So it doesn't look like there's too much else other than that. Still have a little bit of a disparity here between the active eruptions and the eruption warnings. But it, you know, hasn't grown at all, so there's that. But yeah, I think that will pretty much wrap things up for today. Still trying to get these dang papers out here. But, I mean, these last two involving, like, the most groundbreaking discoveries in the last 150 years takes a little bit of a special touch here. There's a lot more kind of meticulous wordage and editing I've been doing with that, and as well as just trying to clean the rest of them up. So once the next update comes out, you know, it'll be pretty big. But anyways, that'll do it for today's update. Hope y'all enjoyed, got something out of it. Go ahead and like and subscribe for more. Share this video anywhere you want, and as always, I'll catch you all in the next.